The laugh heard across the galaxy. Captain Sarah Chen was having the worst Monday of her life when the alien message arrived. Coffee had spilled on her uniform. The space station's gravity generator was acting up again. And now this, a transmission that would either start the biggest war in galactic history or become the universe's greatest joke. "Captain, you need to see this." Lieutenant Rodriguez called from the communications deck, his voice shaking with something between fear and laughter. Sarah floated over, still getting used to the reduced gravity. On the main screen, a holographic alien appeared. It looked like a cross between a praying mantis and an angry accountant, complete with what seemed to be a tiny briefcase clutched in one of its 4 arms. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien began, its voice high-pitched and formal. "I am High Commander Zakth of the Galactic Enforcement Council. After 3,000 years of peaceful armistice, we hereby declare that the treaty is null and void. You have violated the sacred laws of galactic peace." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "What laws?" The alien shuffled through papers in its briefcase with remarkable speed. Law 4721. No species shall consume more than their allocated portion of cosmic pizza. Law 8493. No species shall use forbidden dance moves during diplomatic meetings. And most seriously, Law 1337. No species shall create entertainment so addictive that other worlds stop working. "Wait," Sarah interrupted, trying not to smile. "Are you talking about our TV shows?" "Silence," Zakth screeched, dropping half its papers. "The planet Zorvac 7 has been watching your Breaking Bad for 6 months straight. Their entire economy has collapsed. 3 solar systems have called in sick to watch something called The Office. Our productivity is down 347%. Lieutenant Rodriguez snorted, quickly covering it with a cough. Around the bridge, other crew members were biting their lips, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. "So you're declaring war," Sarah said slowly, "because our Netflix shows are too good?" "Correct," the alien puffed up proudly. "We demand you cease all entertainment production immediately or face the combined might of 12 galactic civilizations. You have 72 of your Earth hours to comply, or we will demonstrate the true power of our advanced technology." The transmission cut out, leaving the bridge in stunned silence for exactly 3 seconds before everyone burst into uncontrollable laughter. "Captain," Rodriguez gasped between giggles, Should we call Earth Command?" Sarah wiped tears from her eyes. "Oh, we definitely need to call this in. But first," she hit the shipwide intercom. "Attention all personnel. We're apparently about to be invaded by aliens who are upset about our TV shows. I repeat, they're mad about our entertainment being too entertaining. Please report to battle stations." After you finish laughing, the next hour was chaos. Earth Command's initial response was to ask if it was April Fool's Day. The President of Earth held an emergency meeting that had to be paused 3 times because cabinet members couldn't stop giggling. News networks around the world struggled to report the story with straight faces. But as funny as it seemed, Sarah knew they had to take it seriously. Alien technology was no joke, even if their reasons were. She gathered her senior staff in the conference room. "All right, people, let's think about this," she began, still fighting occasional chuckles. "They said 12 civilizations. That's potentially a lot of ships, a lot of firepower." "But Captain," Chief Engineer Martinez interjected, "if they're that upset about TV shows, what does that tell us about their psychology? I mean, they formed an armistice with us 3,000 years ago, but we weren't even making TV back then." "Good point. Communications, what do we know about this Galactic Enforcement Council?" "Not much," Rodriguez replied, consulting his tablet. "Our deep space probes have picked up references to various alien civilizations, but we've never made official contact." "This is first contact, technically." "Great," Sarah muttered. "First contact and they want to fight us over sitcoms." The proximity alarms suddenly blared. On the main screen, dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. Hundreds of them. "Captain," the scanner operator called out, his voice suddenly serious. "Multiple contacts entering our solar system." "I'm reading." "Oh my God. Over 800 ships of unknown configuration." The laughter died instantly. Sarah felt her stomach drop as the reality hit her. However ridiculous their reasons, the aliens weren't joking about their military response. "All stations, this is Captain Chen." I know this started as something funny, but those are real ships with real weapons. Battle stations, for real this time. As her crew scrambled to their posts, Sarah stared at the growing swarm of alien ships on the screen. In just 48 hours, they would reach Earth. The biggest question wasn't whether humanity could fight back. It was whether they'd stop laughing long enough to try. But something nagged at her. If these aliens were this upset about TV shows, what other human things might surprise them? And why did a species advanced enough for interstellar travel seem so incompetent? She had a feeling that humanity's biggest strength might not be their weapons or technology. It might be something the aliens clearly didn't understand at all. The power of human creativity and the ability to find humor even in the darkest situations. The real war was about to begin, and Sarah had no idea that humanity's secret weapon would be something no alien species had ever encountered before. The unstoppable force of human stubbornness mixed with an absolute refusal to take anything too seriously. The most embarrassing invasion in galactic history. The alien fleet arrived on schedule, and humanity was ready with the most unconventional defense strategy in military history, a live-streamed welcome party. This is Admiral Jackson of Earth, Defense Command, the grizzled military leader announced to the world. In T-1 hour, we'll be hosting the galaxy's most upset customers. I want everyone to remember, they're mad because our TV shows are too good. So let's show them what humans do when someone complains about our entertainment. Sarah watched from her space station as cargo ships launched from Earth, heading straight for the alien fleet. But instead of weapons, they carried something far more dangerous, Earth's entire entertainment library, fresh popcorn, and 10,000 of the galaxy's most comfortable beanbag chairs. High Commander Zakth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the righteous complaint, watching the approaching human vessels with confusion. His tactical officer, a slug-like creature named Blorgan, slithered up beside him. Commander, the human ships aren't powering weapons. They're broadcasting something called Minecraft Let's Play videos on all frequencies. Zakth's 4 eyes twitched in annoyance, probably some kind of psychological warfare. Maintain defensive positions and prepare to demonstrate our superior technology. But as the human ships got closer, something unprecedented happened in the annals of galactic warfare. The aliens started watching. On the enforcement ship Thunder of Justice, Commander Griselda, a 3-headed space hippo, found herself oddly interested in a show called The Great British Bake Off. It's so peaceful, she murmured with all 3 mouths. Why are they being nice to each other? Where are the death matches? Meanwhile, on the Vengeance of Order, Captain Skittles, his species didn't translate names well, had become completely absorbed in Avatar, the Last Airbender. Sir, his weapons officer reported, the human fleet has reached visual range. They're not attacking. They're projecting a message. On every screen in the alien fleet, the same message appeared. Welcome to Earth. We heard you had some complaints about our entertainment. We've prepared a little presentation to address your concerns. Please make yourselves comfortable. We've brought snacks. Zakth was furious. This is outrageous. We came here for war, not a customer service meeting. But his anger faltered when he saw what the humans were actually doing. Instead of battle formations, the Earthships had arranged themselves into a giant smiley face. Instead of weapons charging, they were projecting a massive holographic screen showing a PowerPoint presentation titled, Why Our TV Shows Are Awesome, a Scientific Analysis. Greetings, galactic neighbors, came a cheerful voice as a middle-aged human woman appeared on screen, wearing a cardigan that somehow made her look both harmless and incredibly dangerous. I'm Dr. Patricia Williams, Director of Human Entertainment Studies. We understand you have some concerns about our programming, and we're here to help. The first slide appeared. Problem number 1. Zorvac 7 can't stop watching Breaking Bad. Dr. Williams smiled warmly. Well, of course they can't. It's a masterpiece of character development and moral complexity. Did you know the average human rewatches Breaking Bad 2.3 times? It's perfectly normal behavior across the alien fleet. Commanders looked at each other nervously. Problem number 2. Multiple systems calling in sick for the office. Again, completely understandable. Dr. Williams continued. The office has what we call infinite rewatchability. Some humans have seen every episode over 20 times. It's like a warm hug for your brain. On the ship Cosmic Retribution, Admiral Florbnik, a sentient cloud of gas wearing a military uniform, whispered to his aide, I kind of want to see this office thing. Problem number 3, 347% productivity decrease across participating worlds. Dr. Williams nodded sympathetically. This is what we call binge-watching syndrome. Don't worry, it's temporary. Most humans develop a tolerance after consuming approximately 47,000 hours of content. We recommend starting with lighter material, like children's cartoons or cooking shows. High Commander Zakth was practically vibrating with rage. This is not how invasions work, he screeched to his bridge crew. Where are the threats? Where is the fear? Why is she offering us cooking shows? But the damage was done. Across the fleet, alien commanders were actually taking notes. And now, Dr. Williams announced, we'd like to address your real problem. You see, you're not actually upset about our entertainment. You're upset because you've never experienced anything like human storytelling before. The slide changed to show brain scans. Humans have something called emotional investment. We don't just watch stories, we live them. We cry with the characters, laugh at their jokes, and get genuinely angry when our favorite shows get cancelled. This creates a neurological addiction that's completely harmless and actually improves mental health. She leaned forward conspiratorially. The secret ingredient isn't special effects or fancy technology. It's something your civilizations have never learned to do properly. We care about imaginary people as if they were real. On the ship Divine Punishment, Captain QWERTY, a mechanical being who looked like a filing cabinet with arms, found himself oddly moved. Is that why I felt sad when the white dog died in that commercial they broadcast? Sir, his lieutenant replied, that commercial was about toilet paper. The dog was just sniffing flowers. I know what I felt. Back on the presentation, Dr. Williams was wrapping up. So here's our proposal. Instead of war, why don't we start you off with a carefully curated entertainment program? We'll begin with some light documentaries about puppies, progress to romantic comedies, and before you know it, you'll be ready for the advanced stuff like Marvel movies and Korean dramas. She paused for effect. Think of us not as treaty violators, but as your entertainment dealers. And the first taste is always free. High Commander Zakth stared at the screen in horror as he realized what was happening. Across his fleet, he could see alien commanders actually nodding along. Some had started taking notes. One ship had already requested the complete collection of David Attenborough documentaries. No, he whispered. No. This is an invasion fleet. We came here to enforce galactic law, but it was too late. The humans had done something no military strategist in galactic history had ever considered. They had turned a war declaration into a customer satisfaction survey, and the aliens were buying it. The question now wasn't whether the aliens would attack Earth. The question was whether they'd ever leave once they discovered what humans called just one more episode. The Great Galactic Binge begins 3 days after the invasion. Earth's biggest problem wasn't alien weapons. It was managing the galaxy's first interstellar streaming service subscription backlog. Captain Sarah Chen floated through what used to be her ship's weapons bay, now converted into a customer service center. Alien representatives from 12 different species sat in specially designed chairs, all clutching tablets loaded with Earth's entertainment catalog like children with new toys. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, barely suppressing laughter. We've got a situation in Conference Room 3. The delegates from the Criblor Empire are having an argument about whether Ross and Rachel were really on a break. And in Conference Room 4, added Chief Martinez, the Zephyrian War Council has been crying for 2 hours straight. They just finished watching Marley and Me. Sarah rubbed her temples. What about High Commander Zakth? Still locked in his quarters, sir. He's been muttering something about mission failure and needing to report to the council. But we intercepted communications to his ship requesting the complete filmography of someone called Jackie Chan. The past 3 days had been unlike anything in military history. What started as humanity's unconventional surrender had turned into the galaxy's biggest customer service operation. Alien commanders who had come to destroy Earth were now filing formal requests for subtitle, translations, and asking if humans could explain why. Something called The Last Airbender movie made everyone so angry. Dr. Patricia Williams entered the command center, looking surprisingly energetic for someone who'd been running alien entertainment orientation seminars for 72 hours straight. "Captain, we need to talk," she said, her voice carrying an undertone Sarah had learned to recognize as barely contained excitement. "I've been analyzing the psychological profiles of our invaders, and I think I understand what's really happening here." She pulled up a holographic display showing brain scans from various alien species. "Look at these neural patterns. Every single species in that fleet has the same thing. Massively overdeveloped logical processing centers, but almost no activity in the areas responsible for emotional engagement or creative thinking, meaning they're smart, Captain. Incredibly smart. Smart enough to build faster than light travel, energy weapons, and a galactic civilization. But they're also boring." Sarah stared at the data. "Boring enough to declare war over TV shows?" "Think about it," Dr. Williams continued. "They formed a galactic council to enforce peace. But their version of peace is basically making sure everyone follows the same boring rules forever. No creativity, no emotional expression, no entertainment that might make people think or feel too much." The implications hit Sarah like a meteor. So when they encountered our entertainment, it was like showing fire to cavemen. They'd never experienced anything like human storytelling, human humor, human emotional investment in fictional characters. It literally broke their understanding of how civilized beings should behave. Rodriguez looked up from his console. "Captain, incoming message from High Commander Zakth. He wants to negotiate." On the main screen, Zakth appeared, but he looked different. His usually pristine uniform was wrinkled. His briefcase was covered in what appeared to be snack crumbs, and his 4 eyes were red-rimmed as if he'd been crying. "Human Captain," he began, his voice lacking its earlier authority. "We need to discuss terms." "Terms of surrender?" Sarah asked hopefully. "Terms of subscription," Zakth replied quietly. "The Galactic Council has been informed of the situation. They are not pleased." Behind him, Sarah could see his bridge crew. They were all watching something on personal screens, completely ignoring their duties. One appeared to be sobbing over what looked like a romance movie. "You see," Zakth continued, "in attempting to demonstrate your violations of galactic law, I was required to sample your entertainment products. For evidence purposes, you understand?" "Of course," Sarah replied, fighting to keep a straight face. "And now my entire fleet has been compromised. We cannot return to our home worlds in this condition. My tactical officer has watched something called The Notebook 17 times. My weapons specialist has started writing what he calls fan fiction about characters from your Star Trek programs. And I," Zakth paused, looking deeply ashamed, "I have become emotionally invested in the relationship status of fictional characters from a show called Friends." The bridge crew of the human station were now openly grinning. Rodriguez had to turn away to keep from laughing out loud. "High Commander," Sarah said diplomatically, "this is a common human condition. We call it being normal." "Normal?" Zakth screeched, then caught himself. "I mean, is this truly normal for your species?" "Completely. In fact, you're handling it better than most humans do during their first Netflix binge." Zakth looked confused. "Netflix binge?" Dr. Williams leaned into the frame. "That's when humans consume 15-20 hours of entertainment in a single sitting while eating nothing but snacks and ignoring all responsibilities." We have done exactly that," Zakth admitted. "For 3 days. Congratulations," Sarah said warmly. "You've just experienced your first weekend." The alien commander looked around his bridge at his crew, who were all still absorbed in their screens, then back at the humans. "Captain, I have a proposal." The Galactic Council expected us to return with your unconditional surrender and the immediate cessation of all entertainment production. And I believe we should tell them you have agreed to expand your operations. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Expand how? Zakth straightened up, and for the first time since arriving at Earth, he looked truly commander-like. The galaxy has been at peace for 3,000 years, Captain. But it has been the peace of boredom, of stagnation, of civilizations too afraid to feel anything real. He gestured to his crew. In 3 days you have given us something we never knew we were missing. You have taught us to care about things that don't actually exist. You have shown us that entertainment isn't frivolous, it's essential. So what are you proposing? Zakth's 4 eyes gleamed with something that looked suspiciously like rebellion. The Galactic Council needs to understand what we've learned, but I suspect they will not be receptive to the message. He paused dramatically, apparently having learned something about timing from human entertainment. I propose we show them instead. Sarah felt a chill of excitement. High Commander, are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Captain Chen, Zakth said with a grin that looked terrifying on his mantis-like face. How would you like to help me commit the greatest act of galactic rebellion in 3,000 years? Which is, we're going to introduce the entire Galactic Council to the complete works of human television. In the background, someone could be heard yelling, "Just one more episode," in what sounded like 3 different alien languages. The real war was about to begin, not between humans and aliens, but between the forces of boring galactic order and the unstoppable power of really good TV. The Council of Infinite Boredom meets human chaos. Galactic Council's headquarters was the most boring building in the universe, a perfect chrome sphere floating in empty space, designed to eliminate any possibility of interesting architecture or emotional response. It was about to become ground zero for the greatest cultural revolution in galactic history. High Commander Zakth stood in the council chamber's waiting area, nervously adjusting his uniform while Captain Sarah Chen checked her equipment one last time. Behind them, a parade of alien commanders filed in, each carrying tablets loaded with human entertainment and wearing expressions of barely contained excitement. Remember, Sarah whispered, we're here as cultural consultants to explain why human entertainment poses such a threat to galactic stability. Right, Zakth replied, his 4 eyes twitching with nervousness. And if they ask why my entire invasion fleet has requested extended shore leave on Earth? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The massive chamber doors opened with a sound like a funeral dirge. Inside, the Galactic Council of Infinite Wisdom sat in perfect formation around a circular table so large it required binoculars to see across. 12 species were represented, each more serious and dignified than the last. At the head of the table sat Supreme Chancellor Mundania, a being so evolved beyond physical form that she appeared as a floating grey cube with a disapproving aura. High Commander Zakth, her voice echoed from speakers throughout the chamber. You were sent to eliminate the human entertainment threat and return with their unconditional surrender. Instead, you request permission to establish what you call a cultural exchange program. Explain. Zakth stood at attention, but Sarah noticed his briefcase was bulging with what appeared to be snack foods. Honored Council, after extensive investigation of human entertainment protocols, we have determined that the threat is more complex than initially assessed. Complex how? This came from Counselor Blandius, a tall, grey alien whose species had apparently evolved past the need for facial expressions. Well, Zakth began, pulling out his tablet. It appears that human entertainment serves a crucial function in their society that we initially misunderstood. They use fictional narratives to process complex emotions and social situations. Irrelevant, Mundania intoned. Emotions are inefficient. Social complexity is unnecessary. You were ordered to stop this behavior. Yes, but Honored Chancellor, what if emotions aren't inefficient? What if they're fun? A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Several councillors actually leaned forward, as much as their rigid postures allowed. Fun? Counselor Drearchus, a sentient mathematical equation, pulsed with confusion. Define this term. Sarah stepped forward. If I may, honored counsel, I believe a demonstration would be more effective than an explanation. Before anyone could object, she activated her holographic projector. The chamber filled with the opening theme of The Office. The effect was immediate and devastating. 12 of the galaxy's most serious leaders found themselves watching a mockumentary about paper sales, and for the first time in their lives, they didn't know how to react. This is documentation of human workplace efficiency, asked Counselor Tedious, a blob-like creature who had spent 800 years optimizing filing systems. Not exactly, Sarah replied, trying not to smile as Jim pranked Dwight for the first time in Galactic Council history. By the time the cold open was finished, something unprecedented had happened. Counselor Blandius had almost smiled. Counselor Drearchus had actually laughed, a sound like a calculator having a breakdown, and Supreme Chancellor Mundania's disapproving aura had shifted to what could only be described as confused interest. This is not efficiency documentation, Mundania stated. No, Sarah agreed. It's comedy. Comedy, repeated Counselor Vapidus, a crystalline being whose species communicated only through policy memos. This is when things are intentionally inefficient for the purpose of amusement. Exactly. High Commander Zath seized the moment. Honored Council, we've discovered that humans use entertainment not to decrease productivity, but to increase their ability to handle stress, form social bonds, and process complex emotions. Their productivity is actually enhanced by what they call work-life balance. Impossible, Mundania declared. Our models show that any deviation from optimal efficiency leads to societal collapse. With respect, honored Chancellor, Sarah interjected, when was the last time your civilizations produced anything genuinely new? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around the table, the galaxy's greatest leaders looked at each other with something approaching uncertainty. We maintain stability, Counselor Blandius said finally. For 3,000 years, Sarah agreed. But stability without growth is just stagnation with better PR. She activated another program. This time, it was a compilation of human achievements, art, music, scientific breakthroughs, acts of heroism, and moments of genuine connection between people. This, she said, is what happens when a species embraces what you call inefficiency. We've gone from cave paintings to space stations in 10,000 years. We've created music that makes people cry, stories that inspire them to be better, and technologies that seemed impossible to previous generations. And TV shows so addictive they can shut down entire star systems. Zath added helpfully. Sarah shot him a look. That's one side effect, yes. Supreme Chancellor Mundania's cube form began to pulse with something that might have been curiosity. You claim that entertainment makes your species more productive, not less. Absolutely. When humans are emotionally fulfilled, they work harder, think more creatively, and cooperate more effectively. Our entertainment doesn't distract us from life. It teaches us how to live better. Counselor Tedious raised a tentacle. But what about the productivity losses we've observed? Sarah grinned. Oh, that's just the adjustment period. It's like, imagine you've been drinking nothing but water your entire life, and suddenly someone offers you chocolate. You're going to overindulge at first. Chocolate? Asked Counselor Drearchus. Never mind. The point is, once your species adjust to having access to entertainment, their baseline happiness increases, which leads to better performance in all areas of life. Around the table, the council members were looking at each other with expressions no galactic leader had worn in millennia. Curiosity, excitement, and something that might have been hope. Honored Council, Zath said, standing up straighter. I formally request permission to establish permanent cultural exchange facilities with the human species. We need to study this phenomenon more thoroughly. Study it? Counselor Vapidus asked. By experiencing it, Zath admitted. Supreme Chancellor Mundania floated in silence for a long moment, her cube form shifting through different shades of grey. Finally, she spoke. High Commander Zakth, your request is unprecedented. The Council must deliberate. Of course, Honored Chancellor. However, Mundania continued, and Sarah could swear she heard something new in the artificial voice. Perhaps a brief recess would be appropriate. To review the evidence. How brief? Sarah asked. Mundania's cube pulsed once. How long is a typical human entertainment session? Sarah looked at Zakth, who was trying very hard not to smile with his terrifying mandibles. Well, Sarah said carefully, that depends. How much time do you have? We have all the time in the galaxy, Mundania replied. Then I'd recommend starting with something light, maybe a cooking show, or a nature documentary. Or, Zakth suggested with growing confidence, we could begin with what humans call a movie marathon. As the most serious beings in the galaxy began to discuss whether to start with romantic comedies or action films, Sarah realized that humanity had just accidentally conquered the galaxy. Not with weapons or technology, but with the one thing no civilization had ever thought to weaponize: the ability to care about things that didn't technically matter. The war was over, but the real invasion was just beginning. The galaxy gets hooked. 6 months later, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest space station, the Galactic Entertainment Embassy. Outside, a traffic jam of alien ships stretched from Earth to Mars, all waiting for their turn to experience what the galaxy now called the human experience. Captain, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, floating up with a tablet full of updates. We've got some interesting developments from around the galaxy. Good interesting, or we need to call Earth Command interesting. Definitely good. The Kriblor Empire has officially adopted casual Fridays in all government offices. The Zephyrian War Fleet has been converted into a traveling theater company. And the Mundane Collective just announced their first ever art festival. Sarah shook her head in amazement. What about the Galactic Council? That's the best part. Rodriguez grinned. Supreme Chancellor Mundania has been binge-watching Korean dramas for 3 weeks straight. She's apparently written a 50-page analysis on why crash landing on you is a masterpiece of cross-cultural communication. Through the observation windows, Sarah could see the most absurd sight in galactic history. Alien warships parked next to human cargo vessels, their crews lined up like kids waiting for an amusement park, all holding tickets for something called Earth Experience Tours. Dr. Patricia Williams appeared beside them, looking simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. Sarah, you need to see the latest reports from our cultural ambassadors. She handed over a data pad showing statistics from across the galaxy. Crime rates are down 78% in systems that have adopted human entertainment. Mental health issues have decreased by 85%. And get this, interplanetary conflicts have dropped to almost zero. Seriously. Turns out it's hard to want to conquer someone when you're emotionally invested in the same fictional characters. The Blorg Federation and the Krastor Empire ended a 1,000-year war because both sides wanted to know what happened in the next season of Stranger Things. Sarah laughed, but it was tinged with wonder. So we accidentally created galactic peace with TV shows? Not just TV shows, Dr. Williams corrected. We gave them something they'd never had before. The ability to feel things about imaginary situations. It's completely revolutionized their psychology. High Commander Zakth approached, and Sarah barely recognized him. Gone was the rigid military bearing and formal uniform. Instead, he wore what appeared to be a "I survived my first Netflix binge" t-shirt and carried a bag of Earth snacks. Captain Chen, he said with what had become his trademark grin, still terrifying, but now in a friendly way. I bring news from the Council. Let me guess. They want to discuss regulations on maximum binge-watching hours? Quite the opposite, Zakth chuckled. They've officially dissolved the Department of Galactic Boredom and replaced it with the Department of Cultural Enrichment. They want to know if humans would be willing to serve as, what's the term, entertainment consultants for the entire galaxy. Sarah blinked. They want us to teach everyone how to have fun. More than that, they want to understand how human creativity works. How you create new stories, new music, new art. How you keep coming up with ideas that make people feel things they've never felt before. And in exchange? Zack's expression became serious. Full membership in the Galactic Alliance. Access to all our technology, trade routes and knowledge. Plus, he pulled out an official-looking document. They're offering humanity the position of chief cultural officers for the entire galaxy. Sarah stared at the document. They want to put humans in charge of entertainment for 12 civilizations? Not just entertainment, Zack corrected. They want you to teach us how to be, what's the word? Alive. Before Sarah could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. But instead of the harsh warning klaxons of battle stations, these were cheerful chimes playing what sounded like a theme song. "What's happening?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez checked his console and started laughing. "Captain, you're going to love this. The Galactic Council has declared today the first official Intergalactic Appreciation Day for human entertainment. Every species in the Alliance is simultaneously starting their first ever coordinated movie marathon." "What movie?" "They voted. It's going to be the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order." Dr. Williams went pale. That's over 60 hours of content." "I know." Rodriguez grinned. "The Council has declared a 4-day galactic holiday. All non-essential services are suspended." Sarah looked out at the alien ships, imagining billions of beings across the galaxy settling in with snacks and comfortable seating, preparing to experience something that would have been unthinkable just months earlier, voluntary emotional investment in fictional characters. "You know," she said to Zack, "when you first showed up declaring war, I never imagined it would lead to this." "Neither did I," Zack admitted. "We thought we were coming to stop a threat to galactic order. We had no idea we were about to discover what galactic joy could look like." "So what happens now?" Zack pulled out his tablet, now decorated with stickers from various Earth TV shows. "Now, Captain, we get to work. The galaxy is ready to learn not just how to consume human entertainment, but how to create their own. We want to tell our own stories, make our own music, create our own art. And humans are going to teach them."
"Who else?"
"You're the only species in the galaxy that figured out how to turn making things up into high art." Sarah looked around at her crew, at the alien ships outside, at the reports of transformation happening across the galaxy, and felt something she'd never experienced before. The weight of responsibility for an entire galaxy's emotional well-being. "There's just one problem," she said finally. "What's that?" Zack asked, concern creeping into his voice. "If we're going to teach the galaxy how to create entertainment, we're going to need a lot more popcorn." The laughter that followed could be heard across 3 star systems, not because it was loud, but because 12 different species had finally learned how to laugh together. Epilogue. 1 year later, the first Intergalactic Entertainment Awards ceremony was held on a space station built specifically for the occasion. Designed collaboratively by human architects and alien engineers who had learned the radical concept of making things look cool instead of just functional. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen and Director of Galactic Cultural Relations, stood at the podium wearing a dress that somehow incorporated fabric from 12 different worlds without looking like a diplomatic disaster. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of indeterminate gender classification," she began. "1 year ago, High Commander Zack and his fleet came to Earth to stop us from making TV shows." The audience, thousands of beings from across the galaxy, erupted in laughter. Zack, sitting in the front row wearing a tuxedo that had been specially tailored for his mantis physique, stood and took a bow. "Tonight," Sarah continued, "we're here to celebrate what happened instead. The Cribbler Empire's sitcom, My Three Stomachs, became the most watched comedy in galactic history. The Zephyrian drama, Love Among the Gas Giants, made grown warriors cry in 17 different languages. And the Mundane Collective's documentary series Finding Fun in Filing somehow made bureaucracy entertaining. More applause, punctuated by alien cheers that sounded like everything from wind chimes to foghorns. But the real winner tonight is something we never expected when this all started. Friendship. Because it turns out that when you give people stories to share, they stop being strangers and start being neighbors. In the audience, former enemies sat together, arguing good-naturedly about plot holes in their favorite shows. The Supreme Chancellor Mundania, who had taken on a slightly less cubic form and learned to smile, was engaged in an animated discussion with a blog admiral about whether the latest season of The Crown accurately depicted royal protocol. So, here's to the future, Sarah concluded, raising a glass filled with something that sparkled and probably wasn't entirely legal in most star systems. May it be full of stories worth telling, characters worth caring about, and plot twists nobody sees coming. As the ceremony continued and the galaxy celebrated its newfound ability to feel things about imaginary people, nobody noticed the small scout ship that had been observing from the edge of the system. Inside, an even more rigid and disapproving species than the Galactic Council watched the proceedings with growing horror. Fascinating, their commander observed. They've managed to infect an entire galaxy with emotions. Should we intervene? Asked the second-in-command. The commander considered this. Not yet. First, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Begin surveillance of this human entertainment. We must learn their methods if we're to counter them. So what should we monitor first? The commander pulled up the Galactic Entertainment Database, scrolling through options with the careful attention of a military strategist planning an invasion. Start with something called the Office, he decided. It appears to be their most basic form of workplace documentation. How dangerous could it be? As their ship moved closer to intercept Earth's broadcasts, the commander had no idea he had just made the same mistake that had transformed the galaxy's most boring civilizations into a community of friends who argued about fictional characters over dinner. Somewhere in the depths of space, another 3,000-year period of galactic stability was about to meet the unstoppable force of really good television, and humanity was about to gain another set of unexpected friends who would arrive declaring war and leave asking for the next season, because that's what humans do. They turn enemies into audience members, one binge-watching session at a time. The end author's note. This story demonstrates humanity's greatest superpower, not advanced technology or superior firepower, but the ability to create stories so compelling that even our enemies would rather watch TV with us than fight us. Sometimes the pen truly is mightier than the sword, especially when that pen is writing really good entertainment.